April 1st, 1945. The dawn breaks over the island of Okinawa, casting long shadows over the jagged ridgelines and dense forests. The air is thick with the impending clash of two worlds. To the east, the Imperial Japanese 32nd Army, entrenched in the limestone caves and coral ridges, stands ready to defend their homeland at all costs. Across the island, the American 10th Army, 183,000 strong, is poised for the largest amphibious assault in the Pacific theater since the Battle of Iwo Jima. The Americans arrive with overwhelming numbers, but it is their firepower, their industrial might, that will tip the scales. Each M1919, a 4 Browning machine gun in their arsenal, carries 2,000 rounds. Every M2 Browning heavy machine gun mounts with 500 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition, promising devastation that the Japanese have never faced. Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka of the Imperial Japanese Army, stationed at Hill 89, listens carefully as dawn breaks. What begins as a faint sound, resembling rainfall on metal, soon turns into something far more terrifying. The American machine guns have arrived. As Tanaka peeks over the ridge, he witnesses the true power of America's war machine. The relentless drum of firepower from the M1919. A 4 Browning begins to tear into the ridgeline and the limestone caves where his soldiers have sought shelter. The Japanese forces are about to learn the sound of overwhelming industrial might. The battle for Okinawa has begun, and this will not be a war of individual valor. It will be a war where numbers, industrial capacity, and the endless waves of American firepower will determine the outcome. As the sun rises higher over Okinawa, the American forces launch their assault. The beachheads are secured, but it is the ridgelines that hold the key to victory. The Japanese 32nd Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima, has entrenched itself within the rugged terrain of the island. They are determined to defend at all costs, knowing that Okinawa is the last barrier between the Allies and the Japanese homeland. For the Americans, the stakes are equally high. The 10th Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner, includes some of the most battle-hardened divisions in the Pacific. They have learned from Iwo Jima, Tarawa, and Guadalcanal. This time, they bring not just soldiers but the full might of American industrial power. Their machine guns, capable of firing sustained bursts, will become the weapon that shifts the momentum of the battle. As Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka watches American soldiers advance, he knows that their machine guns are unlike anything he's ever encountered. The Japanese have trained to conserve ammunition, but the Americans do not share this discipline. They are trained to fire until their weapons overheat, until the very barrels glow red from continuous fire. The contrast in tactics is stark. Tanaka's unit, armed with Type 99 light machine guns, operates under strict ammunition restrictions. They can fire only in short bursts, conserving every round. Private First Class Kenji Yamamoto, one of Tanaka's men, records his thoughts in his journal. "The Americans never stop," he writes. "For every burst our guns fire, they return 10. Yamamoto's crude calculations reflect the overwhelming firepower that the Americans are bringing to bear. But it is not just the numbers that matter. The M1919, a 4 Browning machine gun, a staple of the American arsenal, fires 600 rounds per minute, its powerful 30-06 cartridge wreaking havoc at range. Its 250 round belts are a symbol of the sheer abundance that America brings to the battlefield. As the battle drags on, the Japanese forces are pinned down. They are forced to conserve their ammunition, choosing when to fight and when to hide, while the Americans press forward with seemingly endless supply lines. The first major confrontation comes at Sugarloaf Hill, a critical position that the Japanese hold fiercely. American infantry, supported by machine gun teams, make their move. For every inch gained, the Japanese have to give ground, their machine guns unable to match the volume and sustained pressure of American fire. The numbers are stacking against them. The Japanese attempt a counterattack, a desperate push, but it is met with a hail of American firepower. The M2 Browning heavy machine guns mounted on vehicles and in fixed positions unleash a thunderous barrage, mowing down the advancing Japanese soldiers. The psychological toll on the defenders is immense. Where the Japanese guns require frequent reloading, the Americans continue to fire without pause, the deafening roar of the machine guns cutting through the thick jungle air. As the Japanese forces retreat into their fortified positions, they know that they are up against something far beyond their expectations. It's not just the American soldiers that they must face, it's the industrial might that fuels their war machine. The battle for Okinawa has escalated, and the Japanese are starting to realize that they may not have enough resources to win. The question now is not if they will retreat, but how much longer they can hold their ground before being overwhelmed by sheer force. The battle for Okinawa reaches its most critical juncture on the morning of the 7th of May, 1945. The American forces, having fought their way through dense jungle and steep ridges, are now within striking distance of Shuri Castle, the heart of the Japanese defense. The island is still fiercely contested, with the Japanese forces determined to fight to the death. Lieutenant Colonel William O'Brien's 105th Infantry Regiment is tasked with breaking the Japanese defense at Sugarloaf Hill, a strategic point that guards the road to Shuri Castle. His unit is armed with M1919 4 Browning machine guns, and the soldiers know that the moment they break the enemy's lines, they will be exposed to devastating counterattacks. But this is a calculated risk. The M1919 4 is ready for action, and O'Brien has every intention of making sure it leads the charge. As the American infantry advances, the Japanese machine gunners, led by First Lieutenant Saburo Taniguchi, open fire from entrenched positions. Taniguchi's men are outnumbered and outgunned, but they fight on with relentless resolve. The air is thick with smoke, the sound of gunfire deafening. Every inch of ground gained by the Americans is met with furious resistance. The Japanese fight as though they have nothing left to lose. O'Brien's machine gun crews move forward under the cover of suppressive fire. The M1919 4 guns, supported by the M2 Browning heavy machine guns, lay down an overwhelming barrage of rounds. The American gunners fire in sustained bursts, suppressing the Japanese gunners and preventing them from effectively targeting the advancing infantry. But the Japanese don't give up. Their strategy relies on sacrificing ground to inflict maximum damage before they retreat into the next defensive position. Taniguchi's men fire with precision, attempting to stop the American advance with every round. Yet the Americans, fueled by a combination of overwhelming firepower and logistical support, continue to push forward. The psychological toll on the Japanese defenders is immense, and they start to lose their will to fight. During the assault, Sergeant First Class John Little and Private Milan Gravich, members of the 1st Marine Division, are stationed with their M1919 4 Browning machine guns on the front lines. They fire with precision, never allowing the enemy to gain a foothold. Their machine guns hum, a relentless symphony of industrial might. As the Japanese attempt a final counterattack, the Marines' firepower creates a wall of bullets that shreds their lines. In a moment of desperation, the Japanese charge forward in a last-ditch effort to break the American lines. But the M2 Browning heavy machine guns, with their devastating 50 caliber rounds, rip through the attackers. The charge stalls, and the Japanese forces are forced to retreat. Yet the victory comes at a heavy cost. Sergeant O'Brien, after firing the M2 Browning for hours, is found surrounded by the bodies of 30 fallen Japanese soldiers. His machine gun is still smoking, its barrel glowing red-hot from continuous fire. O'Brien's bravery, along with the sacrifices made by every American soldier, is a testament to the power of American industrial firepower. The M1919 4 and M2 Browning machine guns have become symbols of American superiority on the battlefield. While the Japanese fight with skill and bravery, they are no match for the relentless tide of American industrial might. The turning point has come. Okinawa is within reach, and the American forces are on the verge of breaking the Japanese defenses. But the cost of victory has already begun to take its toll, and the realization of what it will take to win this battle becomes clear: the continued sacrifice of soldiers on both sides. The morning of the 21st of May, 1945, brings the resolution of the Battle of Okinawa. The American forces, with their unmatched firepower and strategic coordination, have finally broken through the Japanese defenses at Sugarloaf Hill. But Shuri Castle, the heart of the Japanese stronghold, remains. The final assault will prove to be the most grueling of the entire campaign. The Americans, now accustomed to the intensity of the fighting, press on with relentless determination. The M1919A4 Browning machine guns and M2 Browning heavy machine guns continue to provide overwhelming suppressive fire, ensuring that every American soldier can advance under the shield of industrial might. Behind them, the logistical networks continue to supply ammunition in vast quantities, allowing the gunners to keep firing without pause. On the other side, the Japanese defenders, exhausted, demoralized, and running out of possible ammunition, continue their resistance, but it's clear that the tide has turned. Lieutenant Colonel Taniguchi, who has watched his men fall one by one, orders a last stand. The Japanese soldiers, who once believed in their ability to hold out against any enemy, now realize they are up against a force they cannot defeat. As the American forces move forward, they face another desperate counterattack. The Japanese, though outnumbered and outgunned, attempt to break through the American lines with a final, all-out assault. But it is futile. The M1919A4 and M2 Browning machine guns tear through their ranks with deadly precision, making it clear that the Americans have won the battle. The Japanese soldiers who survive are either captured or forced to retreat further into the island's rugged terrain. The emotional toll of the battle weighs heavily on both sides. For the Japanese defenders, many of whom were conscripted into the army, the fight has become a matter of survival. For the Americans, who have endured countless hours of brutal combat, the battle for Okinawa is both a victory and a loss. While they have succeeded in breaking the Japanese lines, the cost has been staggering. In the aftermath, the figures speak for themselves. Over 12,000 American soldiers have died, with more than 49,000 wounded. The Japanese losses are even more catastrophic, with over 100,000 soldiers killed or wounded. The brutal nature of the fighting has left a scar on the island, and the civilians trapped in the conflict have suffered immensely as well. Thousands of Okinawan civilians are caught in the crossfire, with many forced to commit suicide rather than be captured by the American forces. But the battle has a larger significance beyond its immediate casualties. The capture of Okinawa marks the beginning of the end for Japan's hopes of winning the war. The island provides the Americans with a strategic base for launching an invasion of the Japanese home islands, which will ultimately bring the war to a close. The legacy of Okinawa is one of sacrifice, valor, and the overwhelming power of American industrial firepower. The M1919A4 and M2 Browning machine guns have proven their worth on the battlefield, embodying the industrial might of the United States. Yet, the human cost of this victory is undeniable. For the survivors of Okinawa, the memories of the brutal battle will stay with them forever. The Battle of Okinawa ends on the 22nd of June, 1945, but its consequences will ripple through history. As the American forces secure the island, their next steps become clear. Japan's home islands are now within reach. The capture of Okinawa has provided the Allies with a vital launching pad for their planned invasion of Japan. It marks a turning point in the Pacific War, but also a moral crossroads for the Allies. In the weeks following the battle, the true cost of the fight becomes even more evident. The brutality of the combat, the loss of life, and the toll on the island's civilian population all combine to shape the memories of those who fought. For many American soldiers, Okinawa will remain a dark chapter in their experience of the war. Survivor testimonies from both sides emphasize the psychological and emotional strain of such relentless warfare. The psychological impact of facing the continuous barrage of American machine gun fire and the immense toll of the Japanese defense still echoes in the stories of veterans. The battle's aftermath has a profound effect on the broader strategy in the Pacific theater. For American leadership, the horrific cost of the Okinawa campaign, combined with the fierce resistance the Japanese put up even when the odds were stacked against them, shifts the calculus of invasion. The idea of a full-scale invasion of Japan's main islands becomes increasingly less tenable. The staggering loss of life forces a reconsideration of tactics, eventually leading to the fateful decision to deploy atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. For Japan, Okinawa proves that the United States can and will use overwhelming force to defeat them, no matter the cost. The Japanese leadership, though still clinging to hope, can no longer ignore the reality that defeat is inevitable. Okinawa, for many Japanese civilians, is their last stand. The tens of thousands of Okinawan civilians who died during the battle, caught between the fighting forces, often coerced into fighting for Japan, become tragic martyrs, symbolizing the devastating effects of Japan's war of aggression. Beyond the immediate military and tactical impact, the legacy of Okinawa is inextricably linked to the broader scope of World War II. The battle exemplifies the modern age of warfare, where industrial capacity and technological innovation, embodied by American machine guns like the M1919, a 4 and M2 Browning, make the difference in securing victory. These machines, fed by the unstoppable wheels of American industry, redefined the battlefield and demonstrated that sheer firepower could overwhelm even the most determined defenders. The memories of the battle, both for those who fought and for the civilians caught in the crossfire, are forever engraved in the history of the Pacific War. For veterans who survived the grueling weeks on Okinawa, the physical scars may heal, but the emotional trauma lingers. The sounds of the M1919A, 4 and M2 Browning machine guns firing incessantly, the deafening roar of the American firepower, remain vivid in their minds, just as the faces of their fallen comrades haunt them. In the years after the war, Okinawa becomes a symbol of the sacrifice made by both the American and Japanese forces. The survivors on both sides, along with the families of those lost, continue to honor the memory of those who fought and died. The battle is remembered in monuments, museums, and ceremonies, ensuring that the lessons of Okinawa about the cost of war, the resilience of those who fight, and the power of industrial strength are passed down to future generations. As the war draws to a close, the echoes of Okinawa resonate in the larger story of World War II's conclusion. The fight on the island marks the final stages of a war that has defined the 20th century, and its legacy shapes the geopolitical realities of the post-war world. For the Americans, the lessons learned from Okinawa will fuel their growing influence in the global arena. For Japan, the wounds of Okinawa will linger long after the war's end, as the nation grapples with the horrors of defeat and the need for reconstruction. Okinawa will remain a poignant symbol, a reminder of the brutality of war, the strength of the human spirit, and the tremendous cost of victory.